Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the second season of Who You Were. This is Patrick. I just want to make a quick disclaimer up top. I sort of messed up the audio for this episode, so it still sounds fine, but it's not what you've come to expect from Who You Were, and a lot of audiophiles listen out there. So just enjoy the episode and remember that it sounds okay. It's fine.
Welcome to Who You Were with Patrick Noth and Sebastian Canelli. In each episode, we ask our guests to talk about a time in their life when they were significantly different. Episode 36, JD Amato.
Was that before or after I met you when I did that sleep thing where I went to sleep and broadcast myself and people would like whisper stuff to me?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah, I remember
I had this thing called like Please Influence My Dreams. This is back when like doing like live web streaming was like a novel big deal. Now it would just be, I'm sure plenty of people have done this exact same thing.
Sure.
And you could see you, right? There was a video, a live feed of you sleeping.
And I could hear what other people were saying.
Yes.
So people could log onto the thing and whisper stuff to me and talk to me while I slept.
Did it affect you? Did you notice?
Did.
It did.
Yeah.
How?
Well, because like, you know, when you're sleeping and you like, it's not like, JD, kill someone in your dream. It's like, but you just have these voices. Do you ever have this? This happens to me all the time. I'll go to sleep listening to a podcast. And this is what actually is scary, is in that moment right between awake and sleep, I will be listening to the podcast.
You turn into Mark Maron.
And I turn into Mark Maron. And I get up and I'm frustrated about my stand-up career. No, but I confuse the podcast for my own thoughts.
Whoa.
Interesting.
Where I think that I'm thinking something and I realize it's just Bill Simmons' opinion on the Colts or whatever.
I had the opposite when I was a kid. So I would think of music in my head and I would sing the music and I would sing it so well in my fucking head that I would get confused if it was actually playing in the room or if it was just my head thinking it.
Wow.
Were you on mushrooms? Because that used to happen to me when I was lit off from mushrooms.
No, I was like 7.
Well, I had very similar issues as a kid where I would see things and imagine things and hallucinate things that weren't happening.
I knew this about you. We've talked about
I did too.
Yeah.
Really?
I would hallucinate. There was like this no one else. It's not epic because only I know about it. But like, I used to have this continuous thing where I would walk to the top of the steps, and this black figure would come to the top of the steps and carry me to bed every night. And I would ask my parents. I go, "Did you carry me to bed?" And they go, "No, you were in bed all night."
Yeah.
So you used to go to sleep, maybe, and then you would have this dream, sort of, that you were getting carried to bed by this black figure.
Yes, like a cloaked person.
Yeah, it's strange.
What was yours?
I mean, I had so many.
Really?
There were like sort of like characters.
I like how he had to qualify like a cloaked person. Like I didn't think fucking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was carrying me to bed.
Oh my gosh, Patrick. Oh man.
No, it wasn't him.
He did. I know that's why you qualified.
Yeah, because it wasn't a black figure in our culture. It wasn't like a figurehead that's black. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, bro. Yeah, no, it was a cloaked person.
I don't know why, but even picking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as your example feels something about that.
It feels fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I was walking you through Sebastian, what happened in his head. So it's really
Yeah.
That shit would scare me.
Yeah. No, I mean I would be petrified, like almost like pass out from being so freaked out.
Would you consider yourself a coward?
Yes.
Me too. And you know what? I don't think enough people do.
Yeah.
If I know one thing about myself, I'm a coward.
I think now I'm less of a coward. When I was a kid.
Yeah.
Oof. And you know, when I say that, it's like there's things that. I mean, there's diving into all the therapy stuff. I mean, there's so much that everyone goes through as a kid that's individual to them, and the stuff that makes me feel like I was a coward was tied to other stuff in my life that. And so, like, I don't really label myself as a coward, but I was afraid of a lot.
Of course, I'm sorry to paint that on.
No.
But I do think that it's like it's nothing.
it leads all the podcasts. So are you a coward like me?
So you're a coward, right?
No, I think that we use the word too
We're all
harshly.
cowards here, right? Just to be clear.
I think people use that. I think the word in my head means something different than other people.
No, but I agree.
Scared.
Yeah, and I'm a terrified. You know, I'm a scared, weak person in so many ways now, and I was a scared, weak person in so many ways as a child, and I think that's one of the biggest things that. It's funny because you guys asked me this podcast, which, by the way, guys haven't done this podcast in a while.
No, this is our first episode back.
First one back. Here we are. Back in the room.
Yeah, back in the room.
You guys said you haven't talked at all.
I mean, here and there, but not too much.
Not too much.
Not too much. We took our space, so we don't know a lot about what's going on.
Because I know
the person.
I know. I won't share any, but I know Patrick is. Both Patrick and I shared having gone through a lot of things in the past year or so.
Yeah.
So I know we're in our space. I haven't seen you much, Seb.
Sure, I've been going through my shit.
Yeah.
Truly, I think one of the when we started this, we were both going through shit, and then I think one of the reasons
You more than me, probably. I forget when we started.
Well,
this.
you were very supportive to me because you knew I was going through shit, and you came over and
Don't tell people that.
and
I got an image.
no, you were supportive,
Of a coward? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a scumbag coward.
and we talked about wanting to do something, and then like you told me this idea, and I wanted to do a podcast that was kind of similar. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then I think reason maybe we took a break, at least for me, was like I was going through too much shit. And I think that like we were both going through a lot of shit probably when we stopped doing it more so than when we started. Well,
Yes.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
Right.
I was in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Which sucks. I went through a breakup.
Right.
Ruined
I remember that. Yeah.
It turned me upside down.
Yeah.
I still am confused.
Do you guys do this thing where, like, because I've had to, like, really, like, be like, okay, I have to go to therapy or whatever, or, like, dealing with this shit?
Yeah.
Do you have this thing where it's like, because my attitude is like, man, I shouldn't take the space for this. How dare I sort of, like, deal with it, or, like, not deal with it.
For
but
therapy?
Like, yeah, like, how dare I take the time to do this? Like, whereas, like, you know, like, because I'm like, oh, I do that thing where I logic my way of like, you know, there's so many other people that have it so much more. And it's like, that's such fucking bullshit. Like, I feel like that's like the thing that stopped me from doing therapy for such a long time. I don't know if you guys have that.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's funny because when you guys asked me to do the podcast, I was like, well, I don't know if there's what the major lines of my life were. And I'm like, truly, I think the biggest line for me was the past, whatever, like 1 to 3 years of things. I think that's the biggest change I've felt in my life. And the first thing to that was having that change in feeling, because I was the type of person who, I mean, I was a coward of a kid.
I feel so bad.
No, I'm kidding. I was just giving you a hard time.
Right out the gate. This is why we stopped the podcast, because people who grace us, they give me their time, and I go, so you're a baby, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to make fun of you for an hour, okay?
No, well, I was, when I was a kid, I was...
Sure.
It's so funny, because here's the thing that I'm realizing now, because I was literally, like, on my way here thinking about this, and I was like, you know, so much of it is like, oh, when I was a kid growing up, or I had this different life, and then now I'm this, and I think the thing that I've come to realize is that, like, so much of what I thought was changed my life was actually I'm the same person I was as a kid, but now I'm just aware of it.
Yes. Yeah, because before, I think I was just reacting to it without knowing why. And now I'm like, oh, I react to this because of this.
Right.
When you become a little more self-aware about like why you're reacting to certain things,
like,
and then it's okay that you're fucking fearful. Like you're like, okay, I see this response I'm having, and like I can observe it, and it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not a fucked up, you know, whatever.
No, exactly, and like it's so funny because we were talking about the like weird stuff that we did as a kid, and I had lots of weird stuff, like stuff where I was a strange kid, and I look back at it and I'm like, oh, all of those weird things, that was anxiety and stress and stuff that I didn't know how to process as a kid, that now, and having gone through the therapeutic process and doing a lot of just like trying to figure out my whole world, I look back and I'm like, oh, I just had no outlet to understand or contextualize it. And so for me, sort of that like imagination and brain space came the place where it all came out in a bad way, you know. When I was a kid, here's a fact about me that's like embarrassing, is that like I was terrified of storms. And sure, that's a normal fear. But for me, it was beyond storms, it was like weather. If I looked outside and there was a cloud in the sky, I would be like in tears, like would not leave the house. To the part where like my mom would be like, so just like doesn't know what to do, because I got banned from watching the Weather Channel. Like, for some kids,
it was like a horror movie to you.
Yeah, well,
it was like Friday the 13th.
Well, like some kids where it's like they're like sneaking, looking at the scrambled Playboy, my mom would come down and I'd be like changing the channel because I'd be on the Weather Channel, looking at the radar map.
On the phone with the cable company. Look, I know you block certain channels, don't block others. I have a strange request.
Yeah, truly, I'd be looking at the radar map, watching the green blob like like move and reset, and just imagining that, like, oh my God, maybe there's a storm coming in this. And it's like, it wasn't even tied to the literal idea of, because I lived in the Midwest, so it wasn't like tornadoes were a thing, but I lived in the suburbs of Chicago. We were close to the lake, so there were really never tornadoes. So it wasn't really even real. It was just this, now in retrospect as an adult, I realize it was this perfect thing to encapsulate the anxiety I was feeling of this thing that is overwhelming and sort of up in, I even talk about it now sometimes, anxiety. I think we've talked about this exactly, of like up in the sky anxiety where it's like you can't put your hands on it. It doesn't tie to something, but you just feel this ominous fear above you. And so as a kid, weather is a great place to put that. And for me, it was this thing, it was like, I can't control it. It is everywhere and I can't escape it. And that's like a great vessel for my anxiety.
Well, that's like, I think, a good tool almost that you develop, because it's like we were just talking about how like infinity was like a terrifying concept, like a lack of control is a terrifying concept. But if you're like, there is a lack of control and it's fucking weather, you know what I mean? Like, that's like makes it probably a little bit easier to like say like that's the only thing.
And what would you do? You would just try to be overly prepared by knowing the weather up and down?
I would just try to not leave the house. I'd
the house was safe.
What was the good weather? Like, what could you leave?
0 clouds in the sky. No wind, no clouds, nothing.
And that's
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so from a young age, I was like, I got to move to LA, baby.
Baby.
Yeah.
You were wearing shades at the time.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, Mom, we got to get moving and shaking here. We're not in development on anything right now, and that's a big problemo. Here's my card. Yeah, no, I mean, it was...
How old are we talking about?
God, preschool to 8th grade.
Were you smart as a little kid?
I was like a very aware kid of like other people's feelings and what was going on with other people. I would say that I was a smart kid, but I grew up with 2 older sisters. My oldest sister was like a genius, like certified, like just, and I went to a massive high school. She was like top of her class in high school. She went to Dartmouth, was like one of the top of her class at Dartmouth.
Wow.
She got her PhD in like 3 years, and now she's one of the foremost scientists in her field in microbiology, and she's a professor at Northwestern, and
Jesus,
like truly just like one of those people who's just next level.
Already a professor.
Yeah.
Wow. How old is she?
34.
And she's a professor. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, she got her PhD in like 3 or 4 years when it should have taken like 8 years.
Jesus Christ.
She flies around the world giving talks on microbiology.
Oh my God.
Gut microbiology, like...
probiotics, prebiotics.
Exactly.
Those are the 2 words I have to contribute
yeah, exactly.
to that conversation.
She lived in the rainforest following howler monkeys for tons and tons of time.
What's a howler monkey? A little monkey or a big monkey?
It's like a little monkey. It's a...
Those are the 2 qualifications. Are we talking little monkey or are we talking big monkey?
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Phylum, big monkey, little monkey.
Here's the
monkey
question.
or Rampage?
Yeah.
Those are the 2 monkeys in my world.
Curious George or King Kong?
Here's my question though. What are you gonna do with this information?
I'm imagining it in my head like...
What are you talking about? Inner or outie butt monkey?
No, I'm like thinking, so she's around these monkeys, so I instantly think, my head goes, Jane Goodall. I know it wasn't monkeys, so then I'm like, is this... I know that it was like orangutan. No, it was
apes.
Yeah, hey, let me get there, okay? Let me prove to the audience I got some facts. So, okay, Jane Goodall does the apes, and she does all that shit.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what's your sister doing? I'm like trying to imagine that picture of your sister. Is it like little monkeys or big monkeys?
It's like little monkeys.
Oh, there we go.
Sort of like medium monkeys. I think they're like little to medium monkeys, and they like make these like terrifying noises.
And she would.
So no one wants to study those things.
Well, so God, I'm gonna sound like such a dummy here as I try to figure out.
You're gonna sound so dumb right now.
Well, I'm gonna try to explain what I think her research was.
Like
okay.
So, so I think in her field, there's this whole question of whether your microbiome, which is the bacteria in your gut, is something that is innate to the species or something that is developed through the natural process of living. And so based on your environment and evolution, whether that can adjust and change or whether it's just predetermined.
Cool. That's super. Like, do you know which way she leans in terms of like?
I'm gonna sound like such. I don't even want to because she's like.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to be like. Oh, I'm the like younger brother of a scientist who's like. Oh, my sister thinks, and she'll be like, no, you're wrong.
Well, it's like my mom's always talking about now. She's like, your gut determines your like your mental health or your well-being.
Yes,
and my mom's always talking about bone broth.
Bone broth. I don't fuck with that. That's the shit that comes in the cardboard containers.
Is your mother a witch?
Patrick, have you bone broth?
Bone broth, eye of newt.
If you don't have it, you get fucked in the head, Patrick. Your mental health goes back to the bones.
We got our cell phone. She's in the woods. We got our cell phone out there. She's stirring a cauldron. She's fucking talking about bone broth.
She's like
capturing lizards.
Bone broth helps your bones. Brain broth helps your brain.
Shit. Okay, sorry to ask you about
But I think that I'll explain. So her study that she did, this was when she was like in her. This is in her part of her PhD.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. I'm not an expert on.
No.
But the idea was howler monkeys, I think, are a really good mechanism to look at human gut microbe because of some reasons that I won't even bother to understand. But because of deforestation, there are monkeys that grew up and evolved eating certain diets that are being forced to move in areas where there are different howler monkeys with different diets. And so you're seeing different types of gut microbes having to eat different things through the process of deforestation. And so following them and seeing how their microbes are developing or not based on these changing environments gives you information as to human stuff. That is like, I've probably gotten every word of that wrong, but that's my understanding of it.
So they go to one area, they capture a monkey.
Yeah, so my
They go to the other area.
So my sister
kidnap another monkey.
Exactly. So my sister goes and she kidnaps monkeys and then she slices open their stomach and reaches inside.
No,
she was literally
no, I know.
just following monkeys and mostly dealing with what they leave behind. ...
Which is like shit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I like how the like one thing that I was like, I'll leave that to your imaginations. Seb, you're like, let me color in the lines there.
Wait. What about me says I like it left up to the imagination? I need to know the size of the monkey. I need to know what the ... is. To be continued is the worst thing that I could ever hear, you know?
Yes.
I need to know all the information.
So monkey shit. All right, welcome to Who You Were.
Wait, we can't. Why even intro the podcast at this point?
Well, because it's just like a formality.
Yeah, but
Because
why?
I have to ask him what era we're going to talk about and stuff like that.
I don't know what we're going to talk.
We doesn't know.
I'm getting mad at him.
No, but like at this point, what time we're at? However many minutes in. What's the point, JD? What do you think about this?
Here's what I think. I think you should, because this is now season 2.
Season 2.
Thank you, season 2.
I would say it's worth it to explain what the premise of the podcast is.
Yes.
But to say, this conversation might. Because I feel like your podcast has developed in the episodes that I've listened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where it started as this, you had like a laminated sheet of questions and a very like.
So you heard about the laminated sheet via the podcast.
Well, I've also been over to your apartment and you've shown me the laminated
Yes,
sheet.
the laminated sheet was. And we don't have that now.
No,
Right.
I actually display it on the mantle.
Yeah, Patrick's handing out T-shirts with the laminated sheet on it. But I feel like you started with this very like, great, it's going to be this thing, and then what it really turned into was like these sort of more free-flowing discussions with people that that touch on that sort of development of people throughout their life and changes that happen in life. It became a more sort of conceptual thing and less like, hey, here's this very specific time in life.
Yes.
I think some people come in with the intention of talking about a very specific time, but for the most part, but then also even if they do that, it goes somewhere.
Of course, always.
Yeah. Exactly. So anyways, what's the podcast?
This is Who You Were. My name's Patrick Noth.
Hi, I'm Sebastian Canelli.
And also, we got to intro our guests.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, wrong.
So this is,
I like how Seb, your first instinct is to like disagree with everything Patrick says,
That's great.
and there's times when you're like, Oh, no, I actually agree, but you've already like half a sentence through disagreeing.
We have a good dynamic.
I know when I'm wrong. I think that's one of my strong suits is going, I was wrong about that. You can't learn without saying you're wrong.
You're right.
That's true.
I'm right.
So
you're wrong. Patrick, come on, get through this intro, bro. We're all fucking sweating through this shit.
Who You Were is a podcast where we bring on a comedian and we ask them about a time in their life where they were significantly different. We are very grateful today to have television director, creative, really like JD Amato. Make some noise for JD Amato. I'm going to do that.
That was the most uncomfortable. Patrick yelled and Seb's clapping. And I'm sitting on a couch directly in front of them.
And
JD has a podcast that you can listen to with Connor Ratliff. He told me I called it the 12-hour day, but that's not what it is.
That's it, 12-hour day.
That's the name of the podcast?
Yeah.
You want to know the truth? I never listened.
Of course.
It seems daunting.
Yeah, me. And it's a podcast where every episode is an unbroken 12-hour conversation.
Uh-huh.
And if you know us in real life, often you don't necessarily need to listen to it because
of course
what you're hearing is conversations that you probably have with us on a day-to-day basis.
I see Connor all the time, and I know what he's going to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
And even if I don't know what he's going to talk about, I have an idea of what realm it's going to be in.
Right.
He could fill 12 hours.
And you guys walk around, too, right? We're not.
Yeah. We walk around. One time we took the
tour of UCB. I listened to that chunk.
Yeah. One time we also took a plane to Ken Beck and Catherine Mudon's wedding.
Oh, that's awesome.
In Colorado, and Connor and I fell asleep on the plane, and so there's 2 hours of ambient airplane noise in the podcast.
This might be why I did a skip on that. But I did listen to chunks. Sometimes you put chunks out, right? Or is that just Connor?
I don't think anyone.
Then how did I hear a chunk of it?
I have no idea. You want to know how?
How?
Shannon released it as like a UCB podcast thing, I think.
That's how.
A walking tour.
Because she was recording for her, and we were recording for us.
That's how.
Will Hines used to listen to it, and at one point, there was a period of time where Connor was inside UCB East doing a show, and I was quietly eating at Two Boots next door, and Will was driving down the street, and he just heard like, it might not have been, it was like, I was at Veselka maybe, and he just quietly heard the tinkering of my silverware on his plate, and he's like, why am I listening to this? I'm just listening to JD quietly eat in a restaurant, not speak.
So that you both weren't Mike. Connor's doing a show, you're at Veselka.
Yeah, so then it was just the mic on me as you heard me cutting my food and tink and tinkering on the plate. Some people love that.
I kind of do love that because sometimes you put on a podcast just to be around people.
Yeah, and that's what this podcast is for.
Yeah.
It's for people that want something on when they sleep or maybe have a long commute or are working and they just want to hear people in the background.
I listen to stuff in the background all the time.
Yeah, that's how I use podcasts. 100%.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing stuff, I hope you're having fun doing your dishes.
Yeah.
So we're talking right now about being a kid, and I remember you telling me maybe at one point that because Sebastian talked about hallucinating,
right?
And you used to see people interact with people and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean it's like a thing that I feel like a lot of people go through, especially at night, where it's like when you're going in and out of the sleep stages like that, especially when you're a super anxious kid.
Yeah,
you your brain produces images, things, experiences that as a kid, it's like when you're feeling something and you don't know why you're feeling it, and so you're young enough where your brain, instead of going, I'm feeling weird for no reason right now, is going, well, there must be a reason, and so it invents something that makes that feeling make sense.
Would you do anything to cope with that?
Well, so it's funny because you ever had this stuff where you're like, I had a perfect childhood. There's people that had a lot more problems than me, and I was like, then you look back at stuff that you went through where you're like, here's an example. I'm rambling right now. I was talking about kids that moved a lot when they were a kid, and I'm like, man, that must have been really tough. And I remember, talking to my therapist 3 years ago. I was like, yeah, there's people move around a lot as a kid, and she's like, but you moved around, and I was like, yeah, but not a lot. And she's like, well, where'd you move? I was like, well, I was born in Dallas, then we moved to Atlanta, then we moved to Charleston, then we moved to Wilmette. God. And she was like, and so
you're projecting out of these.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, truly, I was like, she's like, well, it sounds like you're one of those kids that moved around a lot. And I was like, no, well, we landed where we were when I was in like kindergarten or so. And she was like, well, that means you didn't really have any friends aside from your sister all the time. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I'm one of those kids that moved around when I was young.
Yeah.
And if there's people that everything I'm saying, there's people that have had it so much worse. But it was just one of those things where you're like, oh, that's other people. And you're like, oh, I have my own weird little things, or, you know.
Yeah, I think everybody does. I used to, like, sometimes I would watch, like, a documentary about somebody, and I would be like, wow, they had such, like, a interesting, rich experience. And I actually think, like, we probably all do.
Right.
It's just a matter of, like, being able to, like, observe it. You know, like an example I think about is, like, Kendrick Lamar's albums are all autobiographical, you know? And, like,
You started listening?
To Kendrick Lamar?
Yeah.
I fucking... Yeah.
No, I know. But when we talked, the one time we talked, I was like, I hope you listen to music.
Yeah.
Have you been listening since then?
Not a lot.
All right.
Not a lot. But I try. I like his.
That was the realest moment so far between us.
Well, Sebastian's concerned that I don't do enough, like...
Things that he loves. Things that he used to love in his past, like listening to music.
Yeah, yes.
And
interacting with people is like something that I love, but I don't do it enough.
of course, and I'm the same way. So the one time we did meet up and talk,
Right.
I was like, I hope you're doing these things, like little things.
Well, it's interesting because I remember you guys first started this podcast because you sort of both wanted an excuse to, like, be around people and talk.
Yep.
Because you found yourselves
Isolating.
Yeah.
isolating, which, boy, I know how that feels.
Sure. It
So
gets me out of my house. It's nice today that I had to leave.
Yeah, exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
It's good to leave.
But then it's interesting because you guys stopped doing it, which feels like that's everyone's going through stuff. But sometimes there's things where you're like, I'm doing this because it's healthy for me, and then things get tough enough that you're like, abandon ship, and you start throwing some of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think also, I well, without getting into too many details, I think also I was reacting to things in a very, like, strong way.
Right.
And I think it was just too overwhelming at the time for me to, like, hold that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure. I couldn't handle anything in my life at that point.
Right.
So you're reacting. I can't take anything.
Exactly.
So it just was not a good combo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we hadn't talked about it, but we just did.
That was what was happening. I just couldn't emotionally handle anything because there was so much I was dealing with.
Right.
And you had stuff that I couldn't be there for you for. So that's the truth behind why we weren't here.
And you ever have that too, where you're going through so much of your own stuff, and you have friends that are going through tough things, and you're like, you know that you're not being there for them.
Yeah.
Or it happens to you, and you're like, man, I wish this person was here for me, and it's not happening. But you're like, yeah, but everyone's on their own. Everyone's got their own thing going on.
Of course.
And for most part, everyone's trying their best.
Someone texted me and they were like asking what's up with me like a few months ago. And I'm like, you okay? And they're like, I wish I was there for you. And I literally said, I do too. And I know that's not the response you should tell someone.
Right.
But I didn't mean it. There was no way that they could be there for me in those moments.
Right.
And so I wasn't like trying to lean. I just want anything. I just want them to know. Of course I want them there.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't mean it. And now that I think about it, it sounds like a dick thing to say. But in my head, it was just like, yeah, you're my friend. It would have been. I would have loved to have seen, been there with you.
I feel like being adults and having friendship, it can be so complicated because everyone's going through their stuff.
Your needs, like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? With,
of
like,
course.
Friends, you know, it's like that's like a very vulnerable thing to do, like
especially for boys where I'm fucking from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Boys, oh god, I have my best conversations when the video games are on with a friend.
Yeah.
That's so fucked in the head because it's just I can't.
Because you're shooting people at the same time.
Yeah, I'm fucking murdering.
My KD ratio's through the roof.
Nice, bro. You do play.
Yeah, bro.
There's proof you're a man, so you can, like, be...
Well, it's also like, I feel like so much of you get into stuff when there's those pauses in the conversation. And, like, you can't escape. That's like, all right, we're all just in this room right now.
Yep.
We're all just talking. And you're like, when those pauses happen, you have no choice but to go, like, I guess we have to go deeper. Mm-hmm. When you're playing video games, you can be like, I think there's a guy in the next room, and you're like, you can sort of like deflect immediately if you need to.
Of course, that's interesting.
I started playing Call of Duty because you told me to do that. Yeah, and like you told me to do this.
Yeah.
I was trying to give you like little.
But I wasn't.
I'm sorry, JD. We're talking about what happened.
No, I think that's great.
I told you this was gonna happen.
But I did because I was like, and it is like, it's a good distraction. It's a good way to numb. But oftentimes also like when I start using shit like that to escape, right? Because also what you're talking about, JD, is like, being creative and like, for me it was like going into fantasy.
Yeah.
Like disassociating as a kid was the way I dealt with a lot of stuff. And so like sometimes I think when I do that, I can fall into the pattern of like numbing all over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I think it's like that's always been a hard thing for me to balance, It's
yeah.
Like, but like it's pretty fun though. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I also think video games are really nice. Number one, it's a nice way to have human interaction and keep in touch with people in this day and age because there's online gaming and stuff like that, whether it's strangers or like, I have some of my friends from home, even comedy friends that just live in Brooklyn or whatever, that we all have our own lives, we don't see each other, but once or twice a week we'll hop online and play some game together, and it's people who like we weren't the closest of friends in person, but we both play this game, and so we can hop on and talk about life and things like that.
What system do you play?
PS4.
So is it per system?
What are you?
Like
Xbox One.
Well, I guess we'll never be friends.
We'll
then.
never. The fuck.
You guys just answered my question. So it's like based on your system, the way you communicate. I pre-ordered this Stadia. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
It's Google's new system, and it's crazy because you don't have a console.
Right.
So essentially, what it's doing is taking
Streaming. Yeah, that's a streaming.
It's fucking crazy. That's crazy that I can do that because like one of the release games is Red Dead Redemption 2.
Right.
So it's fucking. It has a fucking processor somewhere.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
It's wild.
Yeah. I don't understand that shit.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's like a good way. I was like talking to Patrick about good ways to let, like, my question to you before was how did you cope with that? And for me, it's always like doing some shitty release thing.
Yeah.
Like, so that's why when you talk about feeling anxiety, my head goes to, yeah, but how'd you fucking get rid of that? Right?
Yeah. Well, so I feel like for me, so much as a kid, I had no way to get rid of it. And that's why I got super into movies and fantasy and all that stuff. And I was really big into drawing. I'd spend all my time drawing and making stuff. And that, I wanted to be an animator growing up or make comic books.
So you like pushed outwards.
Yeah, definitely. But then I grew up in a sports family. Like that
Did
was, oh my God, yeah.
JD can ball, dude.
No, I know you can play basketball. I've heard that before.
But like and this gets even funnier is I grew up in like a track and field family.
Wow.
What does that look like?
Yeah.
Well, so
that couldn't be further away from my reality. I grew up in a pasta family. We carb loaded. We never got to the race.
now, yeah. Seth, go now, run.
I've been carb loaded for this marathon I'm running one day for 30 fucking years.
Aspirations to raise the track and field family.
When I finally run, I am gonna be Forrest Gump. All that macaroni's.
You're gonna have a coach that's like, all right, you're gonna carbo load, and you're like, no, I've been doing it my whole life, man.
So
my dad grew up in like, two Catholic families. My mom's side of the family, my dad's side. My dad was like a pretty
keep the religion the same.
Yeah.
It was like that back in the day.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think that was the impetus for.
Really, I know
parents.
that
wasn't an arranged Catholic marriage.
My grandparents got, I think, pissed at my dad for marrying a non-Catholic person.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
So that is something in my reality.
That's so funny.
And now I'm not fucking Catholic.
Right.
Yeah.
My parents met at a Catholic university, so there you go.
Right.
That's nice.
Yeah. I think my dad probably would have married anything that would have stuck with him.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm gonna cut this.
No, I'm the one who said the weird thing.
No, I'm joking around. My mom was wonderful. My mom's family didn't accept my dad. They wouldn't let her. They tried to prevent her from marrying him. They had to do it in secret.
Really?
And they hired a private investigator at one point.
What?
Presented my mom with a dossier.
What's a dossier? Ooh la la.
Like a folder with all information.
Yes, thank you.
Of like,
It's the end of the beginning of GoldenEye levels.
Yes, okay, I love
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Yeah. So they presented her dossier, and it had fuck. I was trying to think of GoldenEye characters, and I couldn't.
Oddjob.
I was trying to think of Oddjob. Fuck. Well, I fucked that joke up, but no, yeah, they were like, here's here's him. Literally, like they said he went to like a fucking bathhouse or something. Like like they said he was gay, basically. Is a bathhouse? Is that what that means?
Oh yes.
I mean, back in
it
that
doesn't
day,
mean gay.
Back in that day, they'd be like, "Oh, bathhouse."
Yeah.
But yeah, like they said he was gay. They they tried to really try hard.
Why?
Because he was like, he was different. He was from a different culture, like he had at one point he had like long hair. He played the guitar. Like he freaked them out. You know what I mean?
Okay.
My mom's family was very wealthy. They cut her off after she married my dad because he was just not. They wanted her to marry some fucking dude with like a sweater tied around his waist or whatever.
Yeah. So your family stuff is totally normal.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
There's no latent, nothing holdover from all that.
You believe in that DNA shit? No, wait, I should articulate myself a little bit better than that.
You heard of this new DNA stuff?
From the people who brought you flat Earth and anti-vaccinations comes.
I don't know. I'm still on the fence if this DNA thing is real. No, I'm kidding. No,
Some of those guys should have stayed on death row.
You're saying there's a bunch of tiny little corkscrews, loop-de-loos inside me?
No. I forgot how to do a podcast or articulate myself. But the thing about like that, your trauma lives in your DNA, and that it's transferred from one generation to another.
Yeah. Oh boy, I believe in that.
So, what your parents? They met each other. They're both like
they actually went to grade school together, but then didn't start dating until after college.
Wow.
Because my dad was a big runner and football player. Football was like the way out. Yeah, because my grandfather.
Where was this again?
Chicago, suburb Chicago.
Football was big there, huh?
Yeah, I mean, my grandfather was like football coach, head track coach at Loyola Academy, which is like the Catholic school in my area.
What's his name?
Frank Amato.
Frank Amato. I like that name.
Have a good name, like the coaches. I remember Matt Rogers' dad had a very coach name.
Truly, the amount of people who will be like, "Oh, you're Coach Amato's grandson." Like that's who I was for so much of life.
Wow, that's
Sister
interesting.
Michelle got a soccer scholarship to Loyola.
To the college.
College, yeah.
That's a different place.
This is high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, there's Loyola's this is a high school where like the Murray brothers went. It's like that, like
Oh wow.
very prototypical like
Sports.
Chicago suburb, like Catholic school, you name it, weird priests,
You name it, we
sports,
got it.
yeah, all the above, all that comes with that. And so my dad actually ended up going to play football at West Point, hating it,
Of course.
and then walking on Notre Dame.
what?
Wow.
Rudy?
Yeah, right. He was
And he got on the team?
like a big like star quarterback in high school, and then became a receiver at Notre Dame. Of like during the Joe Montana years, actually.
Wow.
Oh, so he wasn't playing the quarterback.
No.
No.
But not to downplay. That's fucking crazy.
But he hated it. He hated football. But that was what he had to do. That was the path.
His dad was like,
Yeah.
"You're playing fucking football."
And it was like you're going to Notre Dame and playing football.
Frank Amato's son's gonna play football. God damn it!
Oh my god.
I mean, truly.
What's his name? Vinny?
My dad?
Yeah.
John. That's my J.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, and then he quit the football team, and like I think his parents darn near disowned him. So they're like,
Wow.
quitting football? You're a quitter? No, Mato's a quitter. And Mato was like, this isn't my life.
That mentality of you can never quit something is fucked too.
Well, it's so funny because I talk about it so much is that it's something that this is now like getting super personal, but I'm happy to share was that so like my grandfather is known for being this great coach, won all these awards and Hall of Fames for being this high school track coach and football coach. And there was this big, like, Hall of Fame dinner where they, there's this whatever, Illinois, whatever, gave him some big award. And they made this, like, documentary thing about him. That's, like, this, like, rousing documentary. I can show it to you. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But I watch it, and the mentality of it is stuff that is like there's these quotes, and he's like a very like Newt Rockney-esque kind of guy where he's like, listen, it's not enough to participate, you've got to compete. And like, if you're gonna do something, you gotta try to be the best. You have to be the best at it.
Clips of him
Well, it's like all these things, and it's stuff that's like his mentality, and it's like, it's not about participating, it's about competing. And if you're going to participate, you might as well not. You got to go and you have to compete.
That's hard. Yeah, that's hard to be a boy.
Right, and so it's stuff that's great coach stuff, but when it trickles down through your family into the mentality for life, the idea of you can do whatever you want to do, but you have to try to be the best at it.
Yeah. I ate more breakfast than you.
Yeah. It's exactly. That was everything. Well, I got to the door first. Now I got down the stairs first.
That's so
all right, race to the
hard.
refrigerator. I win. Yeah.
I win.
No, but it was just like, that's a great mentality, and it is healthy and really good and was positive in a lot of ways, but it also, that will like destroy you, because also sometimes in life you do just need to participate, you do just need to be present and be there, and it's not about being the best or
like
winning
when you were talking about your sculptures before,
right?
Like, it's about you just producing, like, you create these sculptures at home, because you want to just make something.
Right, exactly. And I think there's so much stuff where you're just like, now as an adult, there's so many things in my life where I'm just a participant, and I'm more than happy to just be bad at something or be new at something, and in fact, I revel in that experience. But as a kid, I was just constant pressure to be really to overachieve, and I don't think I have some innate talent at a lot of things, and so it's like that requires a lot of work and energy and anxiety. And
well, do you think that's where your sister got it from?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
because to be that like as like a scientist,
yeah, and she was on the varsity basketball team also, and doing the, she was like, you name it.
Well, it's also like, having that mentality, there's an implied shame to not being able to do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I think a lot of people fall into that, the idea of control, right? Like the idea of like, well, if there's a system and you follow that system, then everything will be the way it's supposed to be. Like, it's like the reason people are, very religious in terms of like, schedule, or the reason that people join cults. It's like easy, right? It's
yeah.
Like, here's what I do.
I fantasize about joining a cult.
Yeah.
I straight up fucking fantasize about it.
Because you don't have to make choices.
I would love to be told what to do.
Right.
I would love to be. You want to know what's fucked? That's one of the major things I miss from being in a relationship, is being told what to do sometimes.
Right.
Is that too much to say?
No, that's...
That was the crux of it.
Yeah.
No, just sometimes I like
Maybe
to
healthy
be...
for everybody.
Sometimes I like to be told what, and I fantasize about a cult, and I go there, and they go, this is what's important, this is why this is happening. I would love that, like, meaning to stuff. Like, it would be so fantastic.
Sorry, I'm freaking out that,
What are you freaking out about?
I'm freaking out that I can just see the waveform, and so I'm getting distracted. I'm like, oh, my waveform, I'm talking too much.
Well, whenever I do 12-hour day, I do the same thing where I will spend so much time looking at the levels.
Yeah.
And then also making like, are we still recording? Are we still recording? Did it stop recording?
Yes.
And I like freak out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's okay. What I was saying was bullshit.
No, what?
I forget what I was just like.
We're talking. But I have the same thing. I mean, how great would it be? I mean, listen. We don't have to get into this, but it's like that's what. This is a very Patrick conversation, but it's like, that's what can be so comforting about religion, is that you're given these rules and guidelines and like, hey, this is what it's about. Like, wouldn't it be wonderful to be like, oh, aliens are coming on a spaceship in 20 years and picking us up, and all we have to do is give away all of our stuff and then commit suicide on this day. Great. Then I'm happy forever? Wonderful.
There's something peaceful about that to me.
Of course, you don't have to.
I don't have to make. Yes, I don't have to make choices. I could just exist, and maybe I would feel the world.
You don't have the anxiety of making the wrong choice.
You know, people ever ask you, "Hey, what just happened over there?" Like, what, like, tell you to describe like a moment of your day, and I can't even tell you one thing that happened.
Right.
Because I'm so not in that moment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that if I knew that I like some bullshit like the cult stuff, I could probably live in moments better.
Right.
But then there's the abuse that's no good.
Yeah. And there's like the abuse and
then the suicide, the abuse, the hurts, the mental manipulation.
the power dynamic, the financial, sort of them draining you of all of your resources and cutting you off from your friends and family.
Yeah, giving up what I actually truly want to do. But if I could be told what movie I'm watching tonight, I'd be...
I was saying that the other day. It's like I think being creative is strange because I think we get into it because we don't want to have that anxiety. Like we get into it because we want to escape this like what the fuck is going on with us. And for me, this fantasy, and then you realize in order to be good, you have to fucking dive deep into that shit. So you wind up having to like go the complete opposite direction.
Yeah.
Than in my mind where I started. You know what I mean? Like I started in a place of like achievement, I proved myself and all that shit, and then you realize it's like, oh, actually, I'm not going to make anything authentic that way.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I've also just come to a place where I'm, again, through all of the anxiety and stuff that, like 2018 was not a great year for the old J-Man, and you know, in the past few years, having dealt with a lot of anxiety and stress, and when I say that, like, I'm someone who, for so long, even though it was so inside of me, I was like, I don't have panic attacks. I don't know what anxiety is. And then when it like happened to me, the entire floor of my life fell out, and I was like, oh, this is what this is. And then enough stuff happened where I was like, all of the stuff that I'd built up, even at like my years at UCB and NYU and all these things that I was like, great, I'm going to do this, and here's who I am, and here's what... Suddenly the floor just fell out on all that stuff, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to my only goal is to try to find whatever that happiness is on the shorter term, and sort of strip down the things that aren't getting me there and try to focus on the stuff that is. And you know, for me, that's been a very winding path that has a lot of ups and downs, but I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. But.
You seem like you seem like a person that's in good control of themselves. At
times, I mean, I try to be. There's times when I've been totally out of control and I think I'm just good at when I'm not good at. I think with my version of being out of control and being,
if that's okay,
totally overwhelmed by anxiety is I don't see anybody, so no one sees that version of me.
You disappear.
Yeah, I mean. Because, like, truly, even, like, doing this podcast was giving me anxiety. Like, I was thinking about canceling, like, all last week because I was like, I don't want to, I'm not in a place where I want to, like, put myself out there and be like, hey, look at me, everybody. And just because of my own feeling of anxiety. And
I was stressed coming here.
Yeah.
I didn't want to, there was a part of me that was like, I don't want to be open.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's, like, also, like...
I just don't want attention right now. Like, I just,
Sure, yeah.
You catastrophize it, too. Like, once... I was exactly the same way. And once you start, it's like, oh, this is fine. Like, I know Sebastian, I know JD. We are just going to have a conversation. That's fine.
Yeah.
But prior to it, you know, I'm like, I don't know why. Like, I'm like, why am I fucking worried about it? But it's like, putting yourself, being open, like Sebastian.
No, exactly. And I don't know. There's just...
Do you have people in your life that call you and are like, where you at?
Yes, somewhat. I think I've gotten good at reaching out to people when I you know, at my darkest, you know, times years ago, because truly it was like one day I just had a panic attack that I'd never had a panic attack before, and it lasted like 3 or 4 days.
Did it physically manifest in you?
I was literally like walking around the city with someone, and suddenly I was like, hey, I don't feel so great. I think I have to go.
Yeah.
And then I went home and like felt so sick, and then like just like couldn't stand or walk. Literally I was like, like in the fetal position on the floor of my apartment for like 3 days straight. Literally like could not speak.
Sure.
And I was like, that's it. I've broken myself.
Yeah.
I can't talk. I was like, maybe I'll have to find a job where I'm allowed to not talk, I guess. And like it was, you know, you're just like, this is who I am now.
This is how I'm going to be forever.
Yeah, this is how it's going to be forever.
I know.
Oof. And then, a bunch of stuff happened, and I found a doctor who got me to a therapist. I have a family member who's a doctor, my aunt, who like truly was like the one that was like, hey, I think this is just anxiety and stress, and then I got to a therapist who I've been seeing for now like 3 or 4 years, who totally changed everything for me. And
I started about then too.
What's that?
I started about that time too.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And we're around the same age.
Exactly.
I wonder if that like...
Yeah, everyone our age just like hits a breaking point.
Sure,
yeah.
Like at like 27, 26, it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, and there's just so many things where I was like, it was just so much stress and anxiety, and that it wasn't like, great, I went to therapy and it went away, and it's like, it took so much time and effort and years, and still now I feel, when I say better, I just mean more balanced than I've ever felt.
Sure.
But there's still times when I'm stressing out about doing a podcast the next week, or something happens. But I'm much better now at going, okay, I think this is not about the podcast, and this is about other things in my life. And I'm just going to continue forward, because I think the thing that I'm stressed about isn't this thing. And you can sort of understand it and look at it. And I mean, I go to therapy twice a week.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't. I can't afford that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
You have
from Writers Guild.
Yeah, you have good insurance.
Exactly, it really helped me.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. I needed to do that for a long time too. I go once a week now, but I was going, like twice a week and stuff. And I think also I wanted to say about anxiety. Like, I think the hard part of therapy is what's underneath that.
Yeah.
And that's like it feels very overwhelming. Like, it makes sense that we have this anxiety, because what's underneath it, like truly, it like dealing with that feels like I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
Truly.
It's wild.
Yeah. And so your mind wants to do anything it can not to deal with that stuff.
I know. I've had like anxiety attacks. Like that. It's fucking. You think you're dying.
Yeah.
It's straight up like I would like go. I haven't had one in a long time, which is like a couple of years, which is nice. But like, it's crazy scary.
And like, for me too, what's been the really interesting dichotomy in my recent life in the past 5 years is that like I have a job where my job is to be like calm, collected, in control, person that people can go, all right, this person's got it figured out.
Yes.
For the people on whatever show I'm working on, or whatever, that are like, great, he's got it figured out. And luckily, this stuff hasn't impacted my job. But there's times when I'm overwhelmed with anxiety, and like had to just like walk into my office and close my door and just like sit there and just like, all right, I'm just gonna deal with this right now and get in this sort of white knuckle through these things that, because it's not the show or the thing that gives me stress, it's other stuff, but it's
of course
all of the stuff deep down inside. But dealing with that while also having a job where it's like, you can't be like, hey, I'm falling apart right now.
No, you can't. I mean, it's hard to do that at any job, but particularly what you do, I would imagine.
Yeah, and so it's never affected my job, and I can still do it. And now I'm in, it doesn't affect me like that at all. But when I was first dealing with all this stuff and having to balance those two things, it was like this impossible changing of gears of like, okay, everything's falling apart. Yeah, everything fell apart, and then also now I have to act like I've got it all figured out, and going back and forth between those things. And now I've just come to realize that like there's this middle ground that you can find in choosing and doing the things that make you feel comfortable and good. And I don't know.
Sure.
Do you find, two questions. One, do you meditate? And two, do you find that, because I find that sometimes when I get hired to do work that I know that I can do or I'm like good at, I snap into muscle memory.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm not necessarily, I'm not having to look at that, but I do need to take breaks. I do need to take breaks and go meditate somewhere, like, or else my mind gets too crazy.
I've never done meditation, and I know it's something that I should try.
I would swear that you were going to say that you do like TD or something.
No, I've never done any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It helps get present.
But you run.
Yeah, and and well, 2018, not a great year. One of the things, I feel like Patrick and I talked about this, but like one of the things that I did is I started volunteering at the South Street Seaport here in Manhattan.
Okay.
Which is the museum that oversees the tall ships, the antique sailboats. And I would volunteer to restore and maintain the boats, the sailboats.
Interesting.
And so once a week, I would go there for like whatever, 10 hours, whatever it was, and just be in the hull of a boat, quietly sanding or painting, most of the time by myself.
Interesting.
And it was a thing that I like have no experience in or anything. There's no like, oh, I grew up as a sailor. It was like, I just was like, hey, this seems like a thing that I want to do right now. But it was that thing where it was like, once a week I had an entire day that was this like meditative, like very just like, I'm going to be quiet. I'm in this rocking boat, literally just like, like sanding and repainting and oiling and, you know, re-rigging or whatever. And so it's like, I think instead of literally meditating, which I know this is not the same. This is like people are like, oh, I have things that are like therapy. And I'm like, no, therapy is therapy. Yes. And this is me going, I do things that are like meditating.
Well, I do think, though, meditation is just being present. That's
yeah.
It's and the more you learn about, or like the more you observe yourself and observe your thinking, the more you realize that it's like, oh, the goal of it is to be present all the time.
Yeah.
You know, which is a big fucking goal.
Yeah.
You know? But for people like us, I think it's like very helpful because.
Do you still do that?
No, you know, it's funny because.
I heard a lot of those boats are fucked up now.
Yeah, I put a hole in a boat and I
Did you?
cut bait and ran.
That's no good.
Yeah. I was like, oh no, it wasn't me.
Good. You know, there's a pizzeria Uno's down there. You love that shit, Chicago boy. Is that why you took the job? You knew there was a pizzeria Uno's down there?
I like how the goblin inside Sebastian was like, we're being too honest right now. I got to attack someone. He's like, oh, I know. There's a pizzeria Uno's there.
I know. What a stretch. You know,
I'm gonna light up JD for being from Chicago and being physically near a pizzeria Uno's at some point.
I mean, this is so true.
Damn, you got me, bro. Yeah, you're right. I was near a pizzeria Uno's.
That's why you did it, so you could go get a deep dish for lunch. It's not the meditate, the sand and bullshit. I just cut through people's bullshit. I see the truth.
Yeah, you saw the truth.
I was sitting in the hall, fucking wolfing down pizzeria Uno.
I had a deep dish sausage. You got me. When I said antique boats, I really meant a fucking booth at pizzeria Uno's.
Red leather.
Yeah.
That would be me. I would be in that fucking pizzeria Uno's.
You go to Uno's? You like?
No, I don't go. I don't fuck with Uno's.
Yeah, who would?
I go once a year.
What, on Christmas?
Christmas Day, we all wake up and we go, oh, who's that?
Yeah.
It's the deep dish man. Nah, when do I go? I don't know. Sometime my family all likes to go Christmas shopping or some shit.
Fanta sausage. That's what I came up with.
What's that?
I was trying to think of what's the Christmas Uno's character, and I was like soda, Fanta, Santa sausage, so Fanta sausage.
Yeah, no.
Santa Claus is Santa sausage.
Nice. He takes a real long time to come out the chimney.
Yeah.
You gotta make sure he's really cooked through.
Got background dancers.
So we go once a year. We get it. I mean, it's good.
Where else do you guys go once a year? You go to Uno's?
I go to Pizzeria Uno's once a year.
Yeah, because you have that weird restaurant calendar, right? It's like a year-long advent calendar for your family.
Yeah, we do the advent calendar. It's all chain restaurants. It's never actually anything good.
At all.
Yeah.
No,
It's just show up right on time.
And we go, and my dad, they always have these like little boxes for the Christmas ornaments on like the trees they'll decorate it with the trees, pizzeria, and they have like a little tiny pizza box. And my dad every year steals it and puts it on the tree, and my mom screams, "Anthony, what the fuck is wrong with you? We can't go back to the pizzeria Uno's."
So she doesn't know he stole it until it's on the tree.
My dad's constantly going to those chain restaurants, like stealing steal little memorabilia. He stole so many coasters from Margaritaville that he puts out the Margaritaville coasters.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Why is it? What's in it for him?
He likes it. I think that
he likes the things, or he likes the thrill of stealing things?
No, I think he likes the things.
That's nice.
Yeah,
That's great then.
Some of the best Italian restaurants in Staten Island, like in the world. Like, why are you going to Pizzeria Uno's on the South Street Seaport?
No, we go to the one in New Jersey.
You drive to New Jersey?
Yeah, when I was a kid, that's all. We went to New Jersey all the time because
Interesting.
Shopping.
And gas. Back in the day, gas was really cheap in New Jersey.
That's so funny to drive to New Jersey to get gas.
It was so much cheaper, and it was before Easy Pass, so my dad would have a coupon book to get through the toll. He would buy pre-buy a bunch of tolls, so it was like.
Did the math work out on that?
Mm-hmm, yeah,
That's
and
so
we'd
wild.
also go to the movies, and we'd like make a day of it.
You guys, my dad used to clip coupons. Do you guys have any familiarity with that? My dad was clipping coupons like crazy.
We didn't do coupons.
Well, he had 9 kids.
Here's a yeah.
It's not like
He had 9 kids and a bunch of private PIs swarming around, trying to get him to go into a bathhouse. My dad, when we lived in Atlanta, out of school, he got a job working for like Frito-Lay, the company.
Very familiar.
Yeah. I'm a fan of their work.
Yeah.
So I remember, this is like, I've actually a very cherished childhood memory, is that one day he took my sister and I into the warehouse, and like the lights were off, and he like snuck us in. And do you remember like they'd always have those things where it's like, oh, if you collect the bag tabs or whatever and send them in and whatever, and you can win whatever. And the big prize was this Chester Cheeto bike.
Oh.
And it was like this, like it was a Pee-wee's Big Adventure bike. And so my dad snuck us into the warehouse, and like the lights were off, and he like got the bike and let us like ride the bike up and down the thing. Wow. And like it was like too big for us. We'd like hold us as we rode, but we were like, we're on the Chester Cheeto, and then we like snuck back out.
That's awesome.
But it was like
Great.
that was like our moment in the sun was like, someone else is going to win this bike, but we got to ride the thing in the warehouse.
Was he bringing home boxes of Fritos and stuff like that?
I think maybe, but I don't have any huge memory of it because
Cheetos is a weakness.
Yeah,
for me.
Oh really? See, I don't like
Cheetos
fake
puffs.
cheese. I don't like nacho cheese. I don't like any.
You don't
of
like
that.
any of that shit?
No.
They have the puffs again now. Did you
I don't need to know. What do you mean? They've always had the puffs.
No. Like they have the. Well, I don't know.
Remember the 3D? Remember when they did the 3D?
They still got those.
I've never seen
The 3Ds?
Yeah.
They got
Doritos.
Oh yeah, not the Doritos. They got the 3D Cheetos.
Oh, they had like the 3D
talking
little
about, like,
yeah.
so
And with the little puff in the middle.
Yeah.
And they exist in 3 dimensions, or what does a 3D Cheeto mean?
It like
Okay.
looks like a figure.
And listen, Jerry Seinfeld over here. So we got flat chip. Imagine a world where those chips become inflated.
Yes, you pump air into the chip.
Oh, like a.
Yeah, that's how they do it.
Yeah, they take a normal chip, and there's one dude that sticks a tire pump in. Boop, boop, boop.
But like sometimes you would get those as a fluke in the bag, right?
Yeah, but this is not a fluke.
This
This
is not
intentional.
fluke.
It's not a fluke. They're pumping them full.
They're pumping them full of air.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not even air. Maybe it's like some sort of chemical. Maybe maybe this is part of your cult. We're getting
Oh my god.
chemtrails.
You know what's fucked up?
I had an experiment when I was a little kid where I would have to go outside for NASA. Wait, this sounds so crazy.
Wait, go outside for
I would have
nasty?
to go outside for NASA.
Oh.
And I would have to count the clouds in the sky, and then I would have to send them a report how many clouds are in the sky in my neighborhood.
Okay, Sebastian.
Not a job that you had.
Sebastian. Yeah.
No!
you out of the house.
No, I was in high school. They couldn't trick me then. It was called,
It sounds like they did.
no.
Famous NASA program of counting the clouds in the sky. First of all, JD's childhood nightmare.
I know, I didn't want to bring it up before, but clouds and contrails.
I don't want to bring up clouds, but I've been sitting on this NASA story.
Wait, I'm sorry. There are so many pieces of this that don't line up.
I was in this
So
thing
NASA
Yeah,
hired you, Sebastian,
I didn't get paid.
to walk
They
outside.
always have to know how many clouds are in the sky and stand on.
I'm sorry. Wait, what? What is theoretically the purpose?
I was in this thing called SERP, Science Engineering Research Projects, for my high school because I did
Okay.
this great project freshman year of high school. Amazing, a project. I went to the citywide science fair. It was on potholes.
That's
and
awesome.
And the expansion, expanding and contrasting of concrete and
Right.
ways to combat that, so the city wouldn't have to deal with potholes as much.
That's awesome.
So I actually had I went to science engineering high school.
Why do you think potholes were like a thing that you were like, you know what, I gotta figure this one out?
My grandpa Brian fucking complaining. Brian,
You're like, all right, I'll dive in.
Yeah, when you asked the culture where I'm from, when you said I'm like coupons, I just saw my grandpa's car covered in Burger King coupons, right? It's like all bullshit. Like I'm from like not like. You know, we talked about traffic and the potholes.
Potholes.
Yeah, potholes. I love talking parking.
That's really cool.
You guys ever been to Atlanta? Speaking of Atlanta, there's so many fucking potholes in Atlanta. It's
Yeah, when I was like 2 years old, that's all I could think about. No, I have no idea.
No, but then I went outside and we counted I counted the clouds and the contrails in the sky. And then I would have to write them down and send them into NASA. It was like a student program for NASA.
But
Why?
What in the world of this? Whoever was telling you to do this, whichever person in a trench coat in the corner was like, "Yeah, I'm with NASA. Just count all the clouds for me." What was it for?
It was because there was a theory that there was going to be that there would be so much plane activity one day in the sky that there would be so many contrails that light that we would have light pollution. We wouldn't be able to see the sun eventually because the clouds would be covering the sky, which would affect plants. But they were like they'd fix the plants and they'd be able to figure out ways to grow. What it really would fuck with is like people's mental health because if you can't see there's this theory in cities that there's more crime in cities because you can't see the stars, and because you think that you're the most important thing in the universe. But if you could see the stars, you realize that you're not because you realize how small you are. So there's this idea that we wouldn't be able to see the sun or some shit.
Yeah, because I feel like everyone that I know that lives in the rural parts of the country, they have a really good sense of that they're not the most important.
No, they're just not looking up enough. You know, Netflix is fucking ruining everybody.
That's right. The middle of the country's all watching Netflix.
Or maybe this was...
What else are they doing?
They're watching fucking, broadcast television.
I also like that this could have been like a whole, a method of psychology of we got this kid who just thinks he's the center of the universe. Yeah, make him go count clouds so he sees how small he really is.
Well, it works.
Stars. The problem is
but I get what you're saying, especially because you, in being Staten Island, you're so near airports and things like that.
Yes, so I go count the clouds and contrails every day, and some days I'd make it up, and some days I was like smoking weed at that point, so I'd be smoking weed, and I'd be like, "Yo, hold up, I gotta count the clouds." And 100% I would blow in the air, and I would make that joke 100% of the time.
Wait, you mean to tell me you were smoking weed at the time you made up NASA wanting you to go?
No, I did a bunch of science shit like that. Like I was a bird watcher for a little bit.
What do you think?
Really?
Yeah.
Do you ever think about getting into birding now? Sorry.
No, because someone compared it to Pokemon Go, and then it fucking ruined it for me. Because you're just trying to collect them all. You're just trying to collect all the birds that you've seen. And also, I would just fucking lie about it. I see the bald eagle. I think I used to tell people I seen bald eagle.
I would just go around Staten Island with a fucking gold chain. Like, hey guys, I saw a fucking bald.
Yeah, I saw a bald eagle. There's 48 clouds in the sky.
No, that's way too many.
Yeah.
You've obviously never counted. No, you probably have counted clouds.
Yeah, literally all I did was count clouds.
Wow, dude, I should have hooked you up with my NASA connection.
Yeah, I could have been making bank doing this.
Could have called.
Well, I wanted to be an astronaut when I was a little kid.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think what deviated you from that?
I found out about the Challenger.
Real?
I swear to God, I found out about the Challenger, that you could die when you go to space, and then I started having all these panic attacks about death, and then I said I'll be an aeronautical engineer.
Right.
Which you build the spaceships.
Do you ever think about getting back into engineering?
No.
So it seems like you were good at it.
Yeah.
You know what? I didn't graduate with an engineering degree.
Interesting.
I did 3 years. I never failed a class.
Right.
What the fuck? But you know what? I'm such a lazy shit. If I had that degree, I would just have a full-time job engineering, and I would not be doing comedy. And I would be a drug addict, and
all right.
I would be a drug addict if I didn't do comedy.
Got it.
I think on some level,
that's so sad to admit. I would be in Florida, just bouncing back and forth from house to house.
Do you think you knew that on some level? Do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because you were like, I have to do this thing that I could chase.
I remember sitting in my apartment room with my roommates, and this is when I first left engineering, and all of them would fucking make fun of me for doing comedy. All these kids I went to college with, it was like a joke, big joke to them. They didn't think I was funny enough, or it was like, how dare he think that he's special. It was like some boy bullshit. Yeah. And I remember my buddy, we both would fucking do drugs all the time together, and he came in my room one night and he started crying. And we never would cry in front of each other. Right. And he started crying. We're both so fucking high. And he goes, my life is ruined. I'm just going to be an engineer. Ooh. And he's crying. And he goes, I'm so happy that you're doing something else, etc. Like, shit like that. And in that moment, I remember thinking, I am so lucky that I have some purpose. Or, like, just at least in my mind.
Yeah, it's not something you have to do.
Yeah. I don't talk to that kid. And I can't. Right. It sucks. I can't. Every year on my birthday, he texts me.
Is he functioning? Like, is he going?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I don't even know. Yeah. I can't. I don't know what's up with him. He could listen to this. Right. Because he does reach out. I miss him, but our relationship was toxic. And we were fucking. He was worse than me, but we were just fucking doing drugs. Right. And like then all of a sudden, I think I went away and he started doing heavier stuff. Right. And so if I was engineering, I would be a drug addict. I have no choice to do what I want. Like,
what do you think about your brain is it that allows you, that makes engineering a thing that you are so innately, because like you're someone who like you joke a lot about being like, oh, not a well-read and da-da-da, but clearly that you have some like expert, like you're someone who just like, there's people that do not get that stuff, and you're someone who just feels like it clicks a lot easier with.
Yeah, math and logic is easy for me. It's definitive.
Right. It's also like, I think we deal with it a lot in comedy. Math and logic. I mean, literally like, well, logic questions are literally, if this is true, what else is true? Right. It's like, it's the same thing. I mean, but that's like definitely not why we're funny.
What?
Do you have any like hobbies or things that like explore that part of your brain?
Now?
Yeah, just things that you'll do for
No,
fun.
And it makes me really sad. And I used to play music too, and I don't do that anymore either. And it all makes me really sad. So when you talked earlier about like how happy you are that you feel like you're what would you say? About like not being an expert and being being okay.
Yeah, being new at stuff. Yeah.
Yes, like I wish I had more of that in me.
Yeah, well, that's a thing that I've found that really fills my life with a lot of.
Khan Academy, you should get on your phone.
What?
Yeah, it's this app I downloaded where you can do.
It's for con artists.
Yeah, that's the one I was using when they told me to count the clouds, bro.
I downloaded it. I never use it, but like that's why I downloaded it, to work that part of my brain.
Here's the biggest recommendation. I'm no expert in anything in life, but the thing that has given me so much joy in life in the past year, especially, is finding weird little hobbies that have little communities that I can go be a part of and be a total novice and be totally new. In the same way of like when you first started doing UCB. That's how Patrick and I became friends.
Of course.
Our brains both light up at this thing. My God, going and joining these communities of things where you're like, I just want to learn this thing or do this thing, especially being in the creative world.
I know.
Having these little things, like that's the stuff that keeps me feeling so good all the time.
That fills your cup up almost.
Yeah.
You have there's a directive, right?
100%.
Like when we were coming up and in comedy, there was a direct, like we saw what we wanted to be doing at that time, and it was as simple as getting up on that stage and fucking doing improv.
Yeah, well, did you ever read The Sports Gene by David Epstein? It's like a great book about like genetics and evolution and how that influences predisposition to success at sports.
This DNA shit.
Yeah, it's about, you might not believe in it, but I think it's
Let
worth.
me hear that.
Yeah,
I'll hear that.
You'll hear him out. But so he wrote this other book that just came out that's really interesting that you guys should read. It's called Range, and the whole premise of Range, and it always starts from a sports, because he's like a sports sports author, sports science author, but it broadens out to everything, like all sorts of life stuff. The premise of Range is that right now, especially in the United States, there is this push, and it comes mostly from people looking to make money, of trying to have kids specialize in sports at a very young age and go, great, if you want to be a basketball player, you have to start playing when you're 3 years old and AAU and this and this and this.
Yes.
But every piece of data shows that it is far better and actually predisposes you to success in sports more if you were doing a ton of stuff. And not only in sports, but the book
pursuing more than just one fucking.
Yeah, the book goes into about all these aspects of different professions of life, where basically when you're doing different things, you're creating different frameworks of how to approach and solve problems and think about things. And when you have a bunch of those different things together, they all overlap, and you start using stuff from one place and another place, and without even realizing, your brain is connecting things. Whereas if you just keep doing one thing over and over again, it actually makes your brain less elastic to learning how to become better at that thing. And I find that so true in my creative life, is that the moment that I started doing tons of other stuff outside of my creative pursuits is when, like, I started feeling my brain light up again and get excited. So it's like, that's why I feel like if there's some part of you that, like, has some interest or some, like, I think it just feels good when you think away, like, if you explore that, suddenly for me, it just really brought a lot of light back into my life.
Interesting that you brought up the bow thing, because I found myself just, like, fixing things. Like, now I like fixing things, or I like doing, like, some kind of, like, very low level, like, carpentry stuff. Or whatever. I'll buy, like, SSD drives for old computers, and I'll take the computer apart and stuff like that. It's just, like, a very, it's working a different part of my brain, and it's a very, like, it's just a task with, steps. Basically. Yeah. And, like, there's a sense of accomplishment and stuff like that. I want to ask, though, at what point did you know you wanted to go into, like, creative work?
Man, I don't even know. When I was a kid, when I moved to Chicago, I didn't have many, obviously I had no friends because I didn't know anybody. It was just me and my sister. And then when I got into first grade, there's
Congrats.
The first day of first grades. Thank you. Big deal for me.
BFD, bro.
Yeah, humble brag.
That's awesome.
Got into that grade 1, baby.
That's nice.
Oh, I forgot that you got stuck in kindergarten for like 25 years.
I did the K through K and then went straight to college. K through K right to C, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's my U's at?
NASA gave you a fucking direct line.
Yeah. They're like, he's been right every day.
He's gotten it right every day.
Neil Armstrong himself was like, let me write this kid a letter of recommendation.
You see that video?
We avoided every cloud in the sky because of this kid.
You guys ever see that YouTube video of Buzz Aldrin clocking that guy?
Yeah.
It's the best. You have to see it.
Because there's that moon landing denier that's like in his face and is like, da-da-da, and then Buzz Aldrin just like,
I get it.
Clocks him.
If he's leaving an event and this dude will not get out of his face, and he's like, you're a liar, you're a fraud, and like he's like, no, he's like trying to fucking diffuse the situation.
That's his work, his life work.
Yeah.
Is the moon. Imagine someone came up to Chris Rock and they're like, I don't believe that you actually recorded your comedy specials.
That would be such a bizarre.
It's the same shit though. You took away. They have the moon on video. Yeah. It's the same shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't believe you were in Lethal Weapon 3.
Lethal Weapon 3, man, that was a bunch of fucking fake. That was fake.
Yeah, Lethal Weapon 3 wasn't real.
It was totally fucking.
It was fake. I know it was a movie, but it was still fake. It was a fake movie.
Yeah, it wasn't a movie. It was not.
It was a fake.
Yeah.
But creativity.
When you got to first grade.
Yeah, and I met these kids, Mike and Leo, and Mike lived 2 blocks away from me. And his family had like a video camera. We started making movies, and so that became the thing that, like, every week we'd make another little movie or whatever. And at a certain point, I learned like what a director was and what that was a job you could have. And then like every school project, I'd do it on like George Lucas or Steven Spielberg or whatever. And I was like, that can maybe be a job. And especially as my sister was like a genius, and I was like always like 3 years behind her in school, and so she was like, oh, you're Katie's younger brother, and I was always like, uh-oh. Yeah. And I sort of felt like, well, I'm not going to be able to have my success in the academic field, so I got to, I was finding joy in making some people be like, oh, that's really cool, and I'd be like, oh, okay, I can get that good feeling of achievement through doing something else. Yeah. And then I think around high school, I sort of put together like film school as a thing, and God, my parents were like, what? My dad was like so not on board.
Was this undergrad you went to NYU?
Yeah, I went to NYU for undergrad.
Yeah.
and yeah, and then it wasn't probably until high school that I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to do. And I went to NYU, and I didn't do any comedy stuff at all. It wasn't until like my senior year when this is a weird, I won't get into all the details of this, but between my junior and senior year, a friend of mine was making his thesis film down in Georgia, and a bunch of there's a huge accident. One of our classmates was killed. Another classmates were injured. Yeah, it was
from Fightel.
Oh yeah.
First shout out.
But it was just like, it was just a one of those experiences that puts a lot in context.
Yeah.
And so I was having sort of a tough summer, so I stayed in New York. Oof. And when at the time NYU was just starting a game design program, but it was like tiny. Uh-huh. And they literally owned like a Frogger machine and an Asteroids machine was like what they like.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Wait, what was the program?
Yeah, they just played Frogger all day, man. No. It was like, like they had this program, and so they had like on the like floor where that program was, they had like two little machines. It wasn't like
that was the beginning of the research. That's the frog jumps across the road.
Yeah, exactly. It was not a good program. But so I would go there at night and just fucking play Frogger when I was like having anxiety or just couldn't sleep or whatever. And one night, literally, they were doing some event the next day, so they were setting something up, and they're like, hey, you can't be there. And so I just wandered through the streets of New York, and I wandered past 26th Street, and I saw the Chelsea banner, and I went in, and I like saw the last like 10 minutes of a midnight show or something.
Randomly.
Wow.
Randomly.
And in the last 10 minutes of this midnight show, you were like, what the fuck?
I was like, oh, what the... Because, you go into Chelsea, and you're like...
Sure.
Because I always felt like I went to college with kids that did comedy stuff, and there was always hammer cats in me, but I just was like, none of that's for me. Those kids are cooler than me. Like, I'm not allowed to do that.
What was the 12 o'clock show?
I have no idea. I've tried to look back at what day, because what was so funny was then I went home that night because the show ended, and then they had thing like, if you want to take classes and whatever, and I was like, maybe I'll, and this at this time, UCB was much, much smaller than it is now. And so I could do
2009?
Yeah, it was 2009. Yeah. And so I went home and literally signed up for a class, and the only class that was available was like this 101 class that started like the next week, like 3 days later.
Wow.
And I signed up for it, and it was like, more money than I'd ever spent on anything at that. I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
And like signed up for 101 with Greg Tukulescu.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and 3 days later I walked into that class. Well, that's the funniest was I walked into that class, and I was just like, what have I signed up for? Why did I do this? And they're like, all right, stand up, we're going to do Crazy Eights. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I need to walk out of this room right now. Or like maybe at the break I'll just like leave and not come back. And then I laugh when I tell this, you guys will get a kick out of it, but people that don't know these people, was that, 101, you got a lot of interesting folks in your class.
Uh-huh.
And I remember there's this one guy who was like in this like business suit kind of thing, like real.
This wasn't me.
No, well, it's like this guy in a business suit, like clearly like corporate kind of guy.
Yeah.
You do the thing where you like go around, you're like you say a name and do a gesture.
Yes.
And it's like I was like my name was like JD, and I did like a.
He was like, I'm Suitcase Steve.
Did like a a royal like twirl of the hand or whatever, and then it got
show
to
your
this
playfulness.
guy.
Yeah.
And this guy said his name and did like a
nice.
humping the air motion.
For those of you listening, JD just did like a hip thrust, like hands going back, sort of like a pelvic, fuck thing.
And the name that he said he did, he went Phil Jackson.
Wow.
Shit, for real?
And then
now fucking writing for fucking Brooklyn
and
Nine-Nine?
Phil and I became like best friends. I was like, who is this guy?
Sure.
And then literally Phil and I became like inseparable best friends.
Wow.
For like to this, literally, I just spent the past like 3 months sleeping in his bed. Literally.
Wow. That's crazy.
Phil's the best, man.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like him. No.
No, because at that he was a guy that worked in marketing and showed up. And,
sure.
In retrospect, when you think about it, you're like, oh, I know how Phil would have done that. That would have been funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was just... And Scott Holmes was also on that 101 class.
I don't know who that is.
And he was on Jump on 3, the indie team that was on for years.
Yeah. I know that team.
And it was just... We spent all this time together, and truly it was like, from that point forward, I was like, hooked.
Yeah. So from 101.
Yeah.
People need to make it through 101. I know I had a hard time with 101 too.
Well, here's what was lucky for me was that so in my first 101 class, Greg Tukulescu, you have to you have to see classes or what, see shows. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And he was like, also this weekend is a festival that UCB has. So if you get a ticket to that, you can go get your classes done.
This makes sense because I know you would be like picturing you like going to DCM, knowing nothing, like
getting obsessed.
Yeah, like
and that's where Phil and I really met each other.
Weird,
and this is back when DCM was just Chelsea.
So you
maybe Hudson Guild and maybe like the Magnet Theater or something. And it was like you could stay at Chelsea for 3 days straight if you wanted to.
Yes.
It was not as big as it.
Didn't they have theater for the new city at that point? Like, or 2009 or maybe 2010, I think. Maybe not.
Maybe that's... But there was only 3 theaters max, maybe.
Okay.
And you could just sit there forever.
You're right, because they were all in close proximity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember Phil and I just being like, hey, we're in the class together. And we just sat there and watched improv for like 6 hours straight.
Wow.
And then was like, oh, I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Sure, of course.
And I think truly, if all those weird things hadn't lined up, like I don't think I'd ever would have gotten into comedy.
And you would have been directing.
I don't know, indie drama feature, whatever.
You would have had a big, stupid, weird director beard, and you would be like, wearing a dumb hat.
Exactly, and like knickers up to my knees. Are you ever afraid
that's going to happen to you as a director?
I would love that if I could have a career as a director, and all it took was me having a beard and a hat. I'm up.
Why do you think a lot of those guys have beards?
Because it's a personality thing.
Also, I don't know what you're talking about.
Everyone's got a beard.
No, Patrick, wait, stop. Okay, I want you to name
Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, they all got beards.
See? You hit 3.
I can't name many more directors.
Those are 3 pretty...
those are big ones.
Those are big ones.
That's not every director ever.
Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, that's right. Famous director Benicio del Toro.
No, wait. Who's the guy who did The Shape of Water? wait. Please help me. Don't leave me hanging. I said the wrong person. I was so wrong just now. Who was the person that did Shape of Water?
Another Spanish guy?
No, it's what? I have to look it up. I've forgotten.
Who is it?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's Del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo del Toro.
That's fair. That's a fair mistake. That guy's got a huge fucking beard.
I like his movies.
So great.
Do you think you got into directing because you like the control?
Sorry, I just got a bunch of work things right in a row.
Oh, please.
But I got stressed out. I got stressed out immediately. You know when you see a text from someone, you're like, why is that person texting me?
I know my phone for that reason. I like fucking...
My new thing is I just don't store people's numbers.
I don't know why I'm looking at this. I was trying to look up Guillermo del Toro.
My new thing is I just don't store people's numbers. I don't know if that's a thing.
It's a new thing. I just don't store... If you give me your number recently, I'm not storing your number. You have to be... there's a new standard to get your name in my phone.
Got it.
Is that bad?
It's like it's like a club that you have to get into.
Yeah, some numbers I don't need in my phone.
Is my number in your phone?
Mm-hmm. You popped up, JD.
Okay, there we go.
You made it when I was loose and easy with getting in my phone.
I got it in the early days. It's like I think about that with UCB too. Is I'm like, if I started now, there's no way I would have.
I know.
I wouldn't have.
I would have been fucked.
I barely made it to UCB at the time that I did it.
Ugh. Yeah, but it's not like, we were obsessed. Like, I don't think so. Because here's the thing, is that, like, and no disrespect to anybody, coming up right now.
Oh, here comes some disrespect.
Yeah, this is...
right now.
My 301 class...
Okay, yeah. My
301 class had, I think, 7 people who are currently working in comedy. Like, it was... there's a wider pool, but there's also just a lot of people who it's a recreation or it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, truly, like you remember some of my first advanced study, I could name, like more than half the people are working.
Oh, you mean your 301 class that you were in?
That I was in.
Oh, I thought you meant the 301 class that you were teaching had 7 people that were working in comedy actively.
No. Like I was saying, like when I took 301 at the old training center, I could say that about numerous, especially advanced studies.
Well, you came up with like Seinfeld was in your 301, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was in my 301.
Jerry
really bad at
Seinfeld.
games, very charismatic.
Bernie Mac was in his class.
Bernie Mac.
All right.
Yeah.
You know Seinfeld's one of his favorite comedians, Bernie Mac?
Bernie Mac's one of my favorite comedians.
He's so fucking
He has
funny.
a saying that goes, "You're always funnier when you're riding the bus," and it's just like you're always funny when you're a person.
Yeah.
That means like you don't want to be a fucking nose in the air.
Yeah.
And that's why it's good to go out and do shit.
I agree. What hobbies do you have, Patrick?
Yeah, what hobbies? This is one. Do you listen? That's why I'm like listening to Kendrick Lamar and listen to the shit you like. Yeah, what hobbies do you have?
Well, I was talking about, like technical shit. Like, I
Right,
like to
yeah,
fuck around with that.
That's cool.
I like to, let's see, like...
Oh, you know what? Here's the thing that I've been wanting to do. So, a weird skill that I have is that I can unlock a padlock by ear or a dial lock by ear.
Wow.
But I want to get like lock picking stuff, and there is a New York lock pickers like association where they meet like once a month and like show each other different locks and how to pick. I was like, that'd be super fun for me to be a part of this. And the whole thing is like, you can't use this skill for evil. It's just to improve the technology of locks. And I'm like,
oh my god,
respect for the locks.
Yeah. I'm like, that would be such a fun group of people to just like meet once a month.
That is cool.
That is cool.
I don't have any people I go meet with.
I think you should.
But how do you find that?
You know what? I want to do a writers group. I want to do a writers group.
I don't want to do a writers group. I want to go do something where we build a fucking glass, like with broken bottles, and we make a mural together.
Do it.
That's what I would rather do.
You live in New York City.
You make like something look stupid. Like it's like, look at this stupid thing and we made it look nice.
Get a bunch of broken bottles and dump some glue on top.
That's not. But that was just like the first example I could think of.
Truly, I think that's we live in New York City. If there's anything that you even have a slight interest in, it exists here.
I like going to plays.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, what was the last play you saw?
I saw Evan Hansen on Friday.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm going to see Hamilton again on Friday.
Is this real?
Yeah. I mean,
That's
that is
cool.
like, but you have to understand, Sebastian, when you were talking to me about that kind of stuff, like, I was immobile. I was
No, I know.
immobilized.
That's
Like,
good that you're going to see those plays.
Yeah, no. It's like I'm getting my energy back. It's like I've never been a person who was happy to be immobile. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like to do shit, you know?
Not me. I fucking out. I do shit. I
You
smoke.
like to do shit. It's hard to do
It's
shit.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think when you do it, it's like I just joined, been on this basketball team for a long time, which Patrick's on briefly.
Yeah, I was on briefly.
Been on it since like 10 years.
That's
Isn't that
Wow.
wild? I just joined a soccer team here in the city.
Wait,
Interesting.
really?
Yeah.
Is there an opening? Because I'm much better at soccer than I am
Really?
at basketball. Yeah,
So-
I used to be good at basketball, JD. I was terrible on this team.
That's
Garbage,
okay.
Garbage City.
Well, so I joined this. It's a league. It's Gotham Soccer, New York, which is
Yeah.
like can be sort of intense. Mm-hmm. And
So it's not co-ed. It's like,
no, and this is like
not to say women's soccer team right now, best in the world.
this is a league where I had to. I had to sign up as like.
Do you hear him covering his ass?
Cloaked figure.
No, you can't bring up some bullshit that Dude, just because you got caught in the web, don't mean that you got to bring up my fucking traps, bro.
No, deflected it.
I had to sign up as like a free agent and put in like my like soccer
Oh, wow.
resume.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
And like hope a team like drafted me. But then I ended up getting put on a team that was all like random people together. And now I'm part of this like this there's this guy who runs like 12 teams in the New York area. And he doesn't play on them.
Yeah.
He's just like the manager of them, and he like organizes
His
it.
name is Frank Amato.
But it's like the weirdest thing, and so now I'm like part of this weird community. So I'm on this team.
You found your dad.
Yeah, but I hadn't played in like 17 years.
Wow.
And I tell you, that feeling on the day of the game and being like,
That's
oh no, I signed up for this. I had to like, go get
Yes.
like cleats and be like, I haven't played. Like I don't even know if I'll be able to like kick a ball correctly.
And how'd you do? All right.
truly.
It came back much quicker than I thought.
Sure.
And now it's so fun. Like, so I had to go to LA for work, and I love LA, and I came back, and I had a soccer game one of the days, and I rode my bike to the soccer game across the, Pulaski Bridge, seeing the city. This
Bridge looks good, right?
Oh, beautiful.
Beautiful.
And then,
Before you guys got that bridge, what was the fucking disaster?
Yeah, that bridge was a mess, and it looks nice now.
No, I'm saying like before that existed.
Oh, really?
isn't that Kujishusho Bridge.
Oh, wait,
Yeah,
what bridge did you say?
Pulaski's the one that's Long Island City, Greenpoint.
Okay, I'm thinking of those.
That's
Long Island City. Yeah, the Kosciuszko.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Kosciuszko. Wait, what's the Pulaski?
That's the one that's just like you can bike over it.
Oh,
There's cars up too.
never mind. I take my comment back.
Wait, is it on like Randall's Island or something like that?
No.
I don't know what the fuck.
No, but I know what you're talking about. This league does have games there, but this
that's where
this
I
league
was
that I was playing, this version of the league, its games were in Brooklyn Bridge Park, so it's like right on the water,
Oh, yeah.
on Pier 5, beautiful Manhattan there. I'm playing
Yeah.
with these people who none of us know each other.
Ugh.
Everyone had these totally different lives,
Uh-huh.
and it was just like, so much fun playing with these people. And afterwards, we're all talking about the game and like, oh, this and this, and like I was sort of laughing too because everyone was like. There's a moment where it's like, oh, what does everyone do for work? And people are like, this, and like later everyone was like, great, so back to the game. And like literally it was just like all about soccer.
Yes.
And I'm riding my bike home, and some of the guys are riding the same direction. It's like
So not LA, where the work conversation would be different.
truly, and it's just like I don't know, being around these people who are so different. The one guy in my team is an MMA fighter. Another guy is a lawyer. Another, it's like just totally random people.
You know, my friend used to play in a league that played there at that Brooklyn, whatever. And John Stewart was in the league, and I think maybe someone, I don't know, some other comedian.
Yeah, I'm in it for networking, honestly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm.
No. That's what I wanted to tell you. You know, as much as you think it's not comedians.
So your advice for people coming up is stop practicing and start getting hobbies that other famous people have?
Well, I just
I hate to burst your bubble, but John Stewart's in that league.
No, but what you're saying is that you felt full because you had a common ground with these people and that you cared about altogether.
Yeah, or had no common ground other than that we're on the soccer field.
Yes.
And that feeling of like that first day of school feeling that you have so rarely as an adult, where you're like, all right, here's this new thing that I've gotten myself into, and I gotta meet these new people. It's such a fun feeling.
But what website do you look? What do you mean what website? I just type into Google what I like.
Yeah, exactly. we've got a box where if you're like, if you just put the words in of things you like in the name of your city, it'll be like, here's some options.
But the problem is that box could lead me to all the other things I hate. You know?
Truly.
The other things that like that are the fake. I'm so much a salt like
Porn is what he's talking about.
no, not even porn, but just like looking up like fucking cults and shit like that, and looking up information on alien. I'd get high and I'll fucking look at aliens for an hour. That's a waste of time for me.
Illuminati.
Then literally walk into whatever art store you go by and be like, hey, is there any glass blowing classes, or is there a pottery class you know of? And they'll be like, yeah, dude, there's this one that my friend Karen runs down the street. And you'll be like, great.
I know. I mean, I live in Brooklyn. I'm sure that like there's tons of fucking artsy shit right in my neighborhood.
Yeah, and everyone is so non-judgmental. Just I don't know. I've gone on this diatribe now of being like trying to force you guys to have hobbies, but because it's brought so much happiness to my life. It
sounds like that's actually the thing that got you out of your anxiety. So in a weird way, we did accomplish the podcast without the laminated papers.
Well, we talked about.
I've got the laminated papers under my shirt. We're never doing it.
It's tattooed onto his body.
I used to in high school cheat on my Russian tests I would tape all the answers to my crotch, and then I would unzip and undo my pants and look at my crotch.
There's no reason to put it there.
And then if the teacher came up, I'd zip up, and then because what are they gonna say? Pull your pants down?
That's what the principal was like. That's what the principal was like. I don't know. Have him go count class.
They tell you to pull your pants down. You got a lawsuit. You get free money.
One time I taped the answers the opposite way, so all the Russian was facing the ground. So I was looking at my crotch, and I had to read all the fucking answers upside down.
So then you like turn your head up, and it looks like you're trying to like go down on yourself.
One last question is, I know kind of what the answer to this is, but you've directed comedy, you've directed some comedy shows, and do you want to get back into directing other stuff? Are you working on any stuff that's non-comedy?
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff that's non-comedy and stuff that I'm diving into. Well,
I would like to hear about it unless you don't want to.
Well, stuff that's like, here's the thing that happened to me, and I know you're. I don't know. I'll just talk about it. So, like, 2018, I don't want to talk about the specifics of it, which I know you know some of it.
Sure.
I think you know the specifics I don't want to talk about. But the Get Show ended. I took a little break. I entered a work situation. That's the thing that was just a really bad experience.
Yeah.
It was the first time I quit something very quickly, and I just really. I think literally I called you to bed. Can you just walk around the block and talk? Because I just felt so turned around by the whole experience of this little, and it's something that never saw the light of day, so no one knows about it. But that happened, and then 2 weeks later, my sister died unexpectedly, and totally was just like, literally, I'd already felt like I'd gotten punched in the gut with this work thing, and then that was just like being tossed off a building.
Sure. Of course.
And so I came out of 2018. Just like totally just, I don't know, you have that nihilistic feeling where you're like, I don't know, nothing matters at this point. I don't know. And then from that, I think everyone has that feeling of like, well then, whatever I do next, when people hit tragedy and you come out of it, you're like, I'm going to focus on the stuff that I want to do. And so I spent a lot of this year going, what is it that I really want to do? What are the things that make me happy creatively? And saying no to a lot of stuff. Things that maybe I should have said yes to, or things that someone else, if they would have been like, yeah, why wouldn't you do that? But for me, I was just like, I just was in that space where I was just feeling so, I don't know, so closed off, and so just like, I'm doing the feeling of like, burr cold holding your body tight, just wanting to feel small and invisible, and going like, well then I'm just going to pick the little details of the things that are at least the breadcrumbs in the direction of where I want to go in life, because you realize you can get so swept away over time, especially in this industry, of going, yeah, I'm supposed to go here and then here and here and here and here, and you know, especially when you're someone that deals with anxiety and depression and all this stuff, it's hard to rock your own boat sometimes. And then when something happens that totally bowls you over, you're like, okay, well, if all the pieces are on the floor anyways, I might as well pick up the ones that I want to pick up and leave the ones on the floor when I leave on the floor.
Yeah.
And so there's so many projects. And I was like telling you, like, yeah, I want to get to like writing, like a kid's show, and a YA book that I'm writing, and children's books that I'm writing, and I have a movie that I've made, a drama series that I'm trying to make, and you know, we're laughing about, like, I make little jewelry for myself now, and I have, which is a goofy little thing, and I have these sculptures that I make, and stuff that I'm just trying to do that is just little things that I'm like, I don't know what this is going to add up to, but these are the things that make me happy right now. And it's been scary because it felt like my career momentum and everything was like, I wasn't like chasing the dragon of whatever I'm supposed to do, but I was like, if I just keep going this pedal to the metal and whatever, I don't feel like I'm going to be happy. And so I've been this has been a year I've just been sort of picking and choosing the things, and it's, you know, I haven't been making much money. It's not like I'm, but I also don't feel like I'm the type of person anymore that I'm like, oh, I want my name in lights and to walk on stage and accept an award. I'm like, right now, I just want to find a baseline life that makes me happy and do things I want to do and be able to maintain like that.
If you don't mind, I can totally cut this if you want, but there's...
The whole thing? Yeah.
There's something...
just leave in the very beginning cloud part.
Cut the whole episode. The perspective thing, and I often think about this to gain perspectives. You and I had talked about your sister. I also have a sister with a disability. Yeah. And like that can give you a lot of perspective too when you think about that, because it's like this, you know, like my sister has so much joy, and she's just unlike anybody. She's the most non-judgmental person. She's just incredibly loving, and like it really, I'm so sorry, man. Yeah, I mean it stinks. Uh-oh. Feel like I'm about to cry. Yes, Patrick. But like, you know, tying it back to what we were talking about at the beginning, that's a part of my life that, you know, I'm the youngest of three. My sister, Katie, is 3 years older. My sister, Allison, was a year older than me. When I was born, I came into the world with a sister. I was the only one in my family for whom my entire life I've had the sister with disability, and who, from the day she was born, she was someone who
doctors were like, yeah, she's not going to survive.
Yeah, same.
And my parents were like, 26, 27 in the 80s.
Yeah.
And had this child that no one had context for this. There wasn't like an internet where you could go in and be like, oh, find other people who've been through the experience. I'm sure they felt so alone and terrified. And then my dad was being forced to move around for work. Like, yeah, my parents were going through all this stress and anxiety. And then as a kid, you're young and you're taking in this family member that's profoundly disabled. You have this feeling of this like eminent understanding that something bad could happen at any time. Mm-hmm. And we're lucky. One of the reasons we moved back to Chicago was there's this place, Misericordia, that helps give care to people who need like 24-hour care, like my sister. When I was a kid, I would go there all the time, and at a very young age you're exposed to, and this is for most people who have children with disabilities, you're exposed to not only your own sibling, but tons of other kids that are going through that because of the sort of care and the communities of that. So as a kid, you're exposed to these people who are, some people are suffering, and some people have such profound disabilities that like you can't help but take on how much that is to see and witness, and you see how certain things that are given aren't a given for all people. And so it's funny because it took me as an adult now, having gone through therapy and all this stuff, looking back and being like, yeah, of course I was a kid full of anxiety. Is that I had these things in my life that I'm sure my parents were stressed out and nervous, and I'm sure as a kid there's a lot that I was trying to piece together that there wasn't an answer for, or there wasn't a thing for.
Yeah, there's no like simple. Yeah, my sister Danielle was one older than me too, and she had open heart surgery when she was 7, and it was communicated to me directly that she may not.
Yeah.
And it's like that's hard for a kid to take on. Like it's like that's like a. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and to what you're saying too is. That is something that also gives you perspective, and you can read any number of studies about being a sibling of someone with disability and what the good and bad that comes with that. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was I had to be 7th grade or 8th grade. She was hospitalized because she was sick and had like internal bleeding. They didn't know how, why, or what, and we were told as a kid that it was like, well, this is gonna be it.
Yeah.
She's going away, and like as a kid, you can't fathom that. Yeah. And then I remember, the thing about Allison, like you're saying about your sisters, that they're so joyful and happy, and the things that bring them joy was a big out for Allison. She loved loud noises, and she loved touch, and she loved, and even though she couldn't walk, talk, or communicate, she had like a sense of humor and I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Maybe my sister also doesn't seem to carry the same stuff that we carry in terms of like, the anxiety. Like, I mean, I know she has like stuff, but like it's like there's such a. I feel like I should tell a story, which is maybe a little bit lighter, which is like my sister Danielle and director related. My dad was he was an entertainment critic, and he was in Milwaukee for the paper. And he had all these interviews with like Alfred Hitchcock and Steven Spielberg and all these people.
Right.
And my sister Danielle at one point really liked the sound of her voice on tape.
Yeah.
And she used to make funny noises and shit. And
right.
She recorded over all of those.
Oh my God.
Which is just like wonderful.
But what's so funny is that like that might be something your family ends up cherishing more than an interview with.
Sure, of course.
Director.
Absolutely.
And so, to that end, same thing with my sister, is that she was in the hospital. And I remember one day we went in there, and I remember this feeling that, the doctors thought that she was, she was dying, they didn't know what. And then, we were called in because all the machines and the doctors wanted us to come in. And what it ended up being was, independent of how she was sick, she had realized that if she pulled off all the sensors on her, all the heart rate monitors and things monitoring her life would start going like flatlining and alarm bells announcing her death. And she loved that sound. So, like, at the time when what was supposed to be her deathbed, she was like, found the one thing that made her happy, which was the sound of these machines that for most people would be these ominous, terrifying things. But she was like, no, I like this sound.
Yeah.
And, you know, she miraculously recovered from that. Mm-hmm. No one knew why or how. And then, you know, she passed away a year ago.
Yeah.
Last week. And, but those little things that you learn and pick up, and I think that's what I think about all the time, and I sort of like parabolize that part of her life where it's like, yeah, there are so many things that are going bad at all times, and things that you can be stressed out and have anxiety about, and it's your choice to, in those moments, find the thing that's going to make you happy and focus on that and put your energy into that. Because that's sort of, all of us are hurtling towards that great unknown. And as we fall down that chasm, the only thing we have is the ability to go like, well, as we move towards that unknown, at least we can find the things that make us happy right now. Yeah. And I feel like when, I don't know, when you lose someone in your life like that, it like, you really feel a piece of you pulled out, but then you also look back and you're like, oh right, this thing comes to an end eventually. And all of the planning and ideating about success and this and that and what you're supposed to do and what you want, it's like the stuff that you remember the most, that matters the most in those moments, are the stuff that you're like, oh, you remember the times when you're happy, where you made the choice that was for you and for the people around you. I don't know. So that's where I am right now. Literally, you know, the 1 year anniversary was last week, so I'm in a very particular spot, and maybe my opinion will mature and evolve as time does. But that's where I've been in 2019. And
thanks for being willing to share about it. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. No, but so I feel different now than I did before all that, for sure.
Yeah.
And Patrick saw firsthand I was not in a great place after all that stuff took place.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, I can't imagine.
I can't.
I also just want to say that you're one of the most unique creatives that I've ever met in a very good way. You're very inspiring to me. And I'm really grateful to have had the opportunity to talk to you here and just to to talk to you in general.
Well, you guys are both very good friends. I feel like whenever we get together, we just get into stuff. Yeah, which I appreciate.
And also, I think you helped me get there too. You know what I mean? Like, we're never talking about the weather unless it's fucking getting terrified of clouds.
Unless it's because Sebastian's out there counting the clouds. Childhood Sebastian and childhood JD are both counting clouds for very different reasons.
All right, enough of this vulnerability. Let's go watch Buzz Aldrin punch somebody in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, bro. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for doing it, man.
Yeah, of course. So the time I want to talk about is...
Oh, my God.
All right, guys.
You guys are the best. Thank you.
Thank you, bro. Do you want to plug anything? No.
You listen, if you watch, 12-hour days,
12
just
hour
me
days.
and Connor talking and walking, and
yeah.
I've started all the goofy little sculptures I've made. They're not particularly great, but I enjoy making them. Is on Complimentary Color, like a compliment, like nice to meet you. On
do you know the
Instagram.
color wheel?
Like the concept of the color wheel.
Would you say I'm the best at questions or the worst?
Wait, what's your question?
Yeah, the color wheel.
Am I aware of the variety of colors at our disposal?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I like that too. I wish I knew the what went to it. Yeah, I wish I knew more of that stuff.
Yeah, well, I think also with art, you just dive in and start doing it and figure it out. You get what we were talking about beforehand, where it was like, who was it? Someone was talking about. I think it was special. Where it's like yeah, you get in there and you start out not good at something, you start working at it, you get better at it, and it's like like everything that you work, every skill.
Yeah. I forget what that was, but drawing.
Oh yeah,
exactly. About my brother Paul's an artist, and how like he just like became so good at it. Shout out to my brother Paul.
Shout out to our siblings.
Yeah. Shout out to my sibling.
We're happy to be back.
Yeah.
And thank you guys
Definitely.
for listening, and we love you, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Who You Were. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Guest before and after pics on Instagram at Who You Were Podcast. Send your before and after pics to whoyouwerepodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at Who You Were Podcast. This podcast is produced independently. If you'd like to support it, please visit patreon.com/Patrick Noth. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.